whereby you speak and you just have faith that the others are hearing. And therefore, we are going to try and adjust to this whole thing. Now, thank you very much, Keith, for this wonderful introduction. Today, I am going to take us through a topic that I call deception of masculinity. And I have a lot of interest in this particular subject because I have taken time to look at how men have been socialized, and especially in the African context. And you realize that as we are going to see, there are quite a number of things that happen to our men. And because of the way we are socialized, and because of the way manhood has been defined, you realize that sometimes it is gonna take a toll on us. I wish to say that I am a counselor and a family therapist. And like you are going to see in my presentation is also integrated so much with the Bible. So we are going to, towards the end, we are going to see some biblical characters that are going to validate what I will be presenting today. I love looking at the Bible because I do believe that theology should inform my psychology. And therefore, I welcome you all, and I just go straight to, and I know that when we talk about deception of masculinity, you know, a lot comes to our minds. A lot comes to our mind, and we begin to wonder, why do I call it deception? I call it deception because of a number of things that we are going to see. That, like I have said earlier, in the African culture, you will agree with me that when we were growing up, the men who are around here, we were told by our caregivers that men don't cry. And it was the only time when, as a very little boy, you were referred to as a man. But every other time, and especially when you are in the wrong, you are not a man, you are something else. And if you come from my geographical extraction, we know how we refer to small boys. And when I was preparing this, you know, something came to my mind, and I remember when I was growing up, it is like we were not allowed to express how we are feeling. And I remember sometimes back, I had bruised myself as a little boy, and upon going to my mother, crying and writhing in pain, I was turned away. And at that point, she is even throwing at you, you know, a piece of a burning firewood. If you are like me, you know what that means if you grew up in the village. And therefore, you realize that we have grown up in a society that I would again call a very sick society that doesn't know how to validate pain. And it is for that reason you agree with me that who we are today has got a lot to do with the way we were raised. Now, talk of expression of pain, talk of expression of feeling. You realize that it becomes, you know, a tall order for a man to say how he's feeling. Talk of even right now when we are battling this issue of partial lockdown, whereby jobs and salaries have been slashed, and the men have been, you know, confined in their homes. But whatever they are going through, it becomes very hard for them to share because of the upbringing. Now, there is a video here, but unfortunately, we are not going to hear it because I've really tried to share the sound from your end, and I'm still learning how to go about these things. and it's not able to, you are not able to hear it from your end. But if I can describe it in a minute, this is a small boy who has been taken for an injection by the father. And, you know, upon the injection, upon being injected, he wants to cry. He wants to cry, but then the father is telling him, don't cry, you are a man, say I'm a man. And he's told to say that I am a man. Yes, I am a man. And he actually reaches a point of even thumping himself and saying, I am a man. And it's very interesting. And I want to take us back to where it all began with the boy child, meaning that we have been told that to be a man enough is when you are able to withstand pain, is when you are able to give, you know, even when you are in pain, you are expected to say and express the opposite of that. And in as much as we need to actually be men and stand to be counted, I have realized that the way manhood has been defined is very deceptive. And I will ask you to come with me, and you agree with me that men experience, men who are here, experience the earliest stirrings of a male identity at war with itself. We experience the earliest stirrings of a male identity at war with itself. Why do I say this? Because, like you are going to see, because I believe you'll be able to receive those notes, they are quite interesting. You will see that this is a boy, and the reality is that he is in pain, but then he is expected to be at war with that particular reality. And for that reason, we grow up knowing to numb our pain, not knowing how to say how we feel. We are immunized against deeper emotional honesty. We've been immunized against that, meaning that when we are going through an experience, or when we are going through a situation that is taking a toll on us, we are not allowed to say, or the way we have been socialized, the way our family systems taught us, is that a man is one who, even when you are in pain, you say it is all okay. And sometimes I even attend barrios, and I take time to observe how the affected male gender in such a situation behaves. And you will see that we've been told that we've got to be strong for others. But then the question is, it is good to be strong for others, but who is being strong for us? Who is being strong for us? Of course, we are expected to be leaders, and we are not saying that we are substituting who we are supposed to be for what ladies are supposed to be. But then you of this immunization against deeper emotional honesty, the results can be far-reaching, often very devastating consequences, because we are not able to say how we are feeling. The other day, I was watching a clip, and I have it with me, that was covered by BBC, and they had covered a region in central area whereby men have been committing suicide, someplace in Nyandarua County, committing suicide, you know, one after the other. And of interest to me was a case whereby a father had committed suicide, and then the boy, because of the pain of losing a father, wants to commit suicide, and he contemplates committing suicide, and he actually buys a new rope, and all this time he is planning. Being the firstborn son in this family, nobody knows what is happening behind his back. That tells you that this boy has not been given a room, or he did not find it fit because of the socialization to say to others how the loss of a father has made him feel. And I like what he says at the end of it, because he did not commit suicide. He was discovered just when he was about to hang himself. And he said that he has realized that when somebody commits suicide or when a family member commits suicide, they do not end their pain. The only thing they do is that they share it, they spread it to others. And for me, that was when you feel you are sort of a woman, and I hear them say, no, you agree with me. We hear them say that huyu mtu fulani ako na umama sana, ako na umama. Listen to the young generation, you hear them say that fulani ako na umama sana. And I keep asking myself, where has all this come from? Now, men don't often exhibit emotion because we are taught that it is weak to do so. And this is one thing that I was telling them. You remember a while ago, the president had formed a task force to look into the issue of mental health because of the escalating issues of suicide and homicide and marital violence. And one of the things that I made very clear is that men cannot just be approached the way we think, just like that. Number one thing is that we need a safe space. We need a place where we don't feel condemned. We need a place whereby our dignity and our ego are not going to be trampled upon. That is the only route to a man's heart. Now, a man's socialization, as we have said, has forced him to be two-faced. We are two-faced. Number one face is the private face outside of the public eye. And this is the face that is trapped in pain. But then for the sake of the public, because we want the public to take home a different message, we wear a very brave face. But then it is a face that is trapped in pain. And then, the private face, outside of the public eye, when we are in the house, when we are in our homes, there is that private face that we wear or we put on. Then we have the public face that shows no weakness. It shows no weakness. Once we go out, hey, we are good. We are good. Now, this is very interesting, that one of the 10 commandments of masculinity is that thou shalt not feel. Thou shalt not feel. But then I keep saying that in Africa, we are uniquely disadvantaged in the sense that for us men, we do not know how to say how we are feeling. But then when we try to say how we are feeling, the people that we are talking to, maybe our spouses or even our female friends or even our male friends, they do not know how to actually listen to us. I was talking to a certain police officer, a friend of mine, and I was asking him, why is it that our officers are really, taking their lives and they are torn apart, they are between a rock and a hard place. Why is it that this is happening? Every now and then we hear somebody has killed his boss, somebody has shot himself. What is happening? And he was telling me, and for me this was very sad, that amongst the police community, when somebody comes to his colleague and they say that they are stressed, number one, they don't take it seriously. And you will hear them saying, kama umelemewa na kazi si uchukue kamba ujinyonge. And this is the way it is. And you can imagine this is somebody who is looking for someone to whom they can express their pain, but instead their connection beads are turned down, meaning that they do not have anyone to tell how they are feeling. And then because of the socialization, the moment they remember who a man ought to be, the definition of a man that we have been given, you will realize that they will retract, they will backtrack, they will not want to say how they are feeling. Now, there's something that we call normative male alexithymia. Normative male alexithymia is when a man feels, but they do not know how to put their feelings into words. We are feeling, but putting our feelings into words becomes a problem. This is what we call the normative male alexithymia. And what happens at this particular stage? We are socialized to be man, quote unquote, independent and strong. They don't need anyone else, and they are not vulnerable. One of the things that we will not want to do is to be vulnerable. I was speaking to a group of couples last evening, and we were talking about how we express our love. And you know, expression of love is another feeling, it's another emotion. It's only that it is now a positive emotion. And somebody said, a man said something very interesting, that, you know, for me, the way I'm socialized, number one, telling somebody that I love them, that thing coming out of my mouth is an uphill task, because number one, in an African society, you will agree with me, even when we are talking to our small children. If you come from a typical society like myself, the word love is always given a sexual connotation. And that is the reason why for a son or for a father to tell a son that they love them, it becomes difficult. Therefore, this man was saying, hey, you know, this thing of sweetheart and stuff like that, I cannot verbalize it because this is not me. This is not the way I was socialized. And you will realize that this man will have a feeling for a girl, but they do not know how to express it. And I have had this when I'm speaking in forums of young people. You hear girls asking, how do we make him talk to us? You know, we are only able to see some signs, but this man is not able to verbalize. And women, ladies who are here will agree with me that you feel like you are suspended. There's something that you want to hear come forth, but it is not coming. It's not forthcoming. Reason, normative male alexithymia. We have a feeling, but we do not know how to put that feeling into words because of the way we are. We have been, masculinity has been defined as being independent, as being strong, that we do not need anyone else to support us, that we cannot be vulnerable. And I was telling this group of couples that, as a matter of fact, if you want to see your marriage blossom, it cannot happen because of prayer and fasting. It can happen only when you allow yourselves to be vulnerable to each other. But then you realize we are again disadvantaged, because even our sisters, in as much as we do not know how to express how we are feeling because of the normative male alexithymia, they may also have a problem in the sense that they do not, our society, our culture has not taught them to listen to that inner feeling. And therefore, it becomes a very big problem. There is something that I like giving or demonstrating, which I call the frustration circle. When a man is frustrated, number one thing, because of the way we are socialized, we want to change that situation. We are frustrated, but we cannot admit. We can't admit that we are frustrated. Somebody is feeling worn out. They have been laid off, especially at this period of COVID-19. They are frustrated. They do not know what to tell their wives. They have done, some terrible mistake. They are feeling frustrated. Now, this door of change, you will agree with me that in life, not everything we are able to change. We are not able to change everything in life. So this man continues to walk in his frustrations, and he has refused to he has realized that change is not possible here. This door has been locked, and therefore he continues to feel frustrated. And then the next thing that happens after this frustration, the next thing that happens, or the way God has designed life, is that this door should always remain open. And this is the door that we call adapting to futilities of life. But you agree with me, fellow men, that sometimes we also want to close this door, because if you're not able to cope with change, you should not lie to yourself that this door can remain open, because ideally this door should always remain open, so that whatever you are not able to change here, it is able to flow down and it is able to flow out at this particular point, meaning that you are now coping. But then you agree with me that some of us, we also close this door. And what happens? The next door, the only remaining door, because frustrations, the way we have been designed, the way we are wired psychologically, emotionally, the frustrations must flow out. Now, they begin to flow out in a very, very, very bad way, you know, what we call unhealthy way of coping. And here is the door that we call aggression. A man becomes aggressive. This is the point whereby a man begins to abuse drugs. This is the point whereby somebody begins to drink excessively. This is the point at which somebody begins to clobber his wife. This is the point at which somebody will commit suicide, because they have closed all those doors. Now, as we continue, I will not dwell on research evidence in the interest of time, but you realize that from infancy through age 4 to 5, boys are more emotive than girls. This research which has been done. As they transit developmentally, we socialize this vulnerability out of them. You know, ideally, boys, when they are young, they are very vulnerable, more than girls actually. But as they grow up, we socialize this vulnerability out of them. Once they reach age 15 or 16, hello?
Sorry, I can see Reverend John has raised his hand. Maybe
come again?
John, John has a question or concern. Reverend John, allow him to make his request. Reverend John, you're welcome to unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just joining the group from Nigeria. So I'm also a psychologist, just joining from Nigeria to be part of this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're most welcome,
Thank
John.
you.
Thank you.
Asante. Welcome, John. So once they reach ages 15 or 16, they begin to sound like gender stereotypes, because we have already socialized them, and we have, you know, removed this vulnerability out of them, and they begin to sound like gender stereotypes at this age. Now, when they are adults, their expression of negative emotion is so much suppressed and impaired to a point that it erupts and expressed in outbursts. And you will agree with me, those of you who are raising teenagers, at this particular point, the outburst of anger and the stuff like that. Now, because we do not teach them, we have not taught them to have safe spaces whereby they can be allowed to express their feelings without being condemned or without being judged. Now, the perceived threat of diminishing power in a man is beginning to expose itself so ugly, at times frightening fault lines in the male psyche. The perceived threat of diminishing power. You know, when a man realizes that he's losing power, look at even a scenario, you know, in a marriage setup, and a man realizes, and you know, this is all deception. What we call low self-esteem, when a man realizes that he is now beginning to diminish in power, now it becomes ugly, and sometimes this is the point whereby we hear them do crazy things. Now, men suffer beneath the gravity of conventional masculinity. You know, conventional masculinity, that thou shalt not feel. Remember the 10 commandments, one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not feel, we begin to suffer beneath the gravity of conventional masculinity. Now, if men are not in touch with selves' negative feelings, they hardly understand feelings of others. And this is what I refer to as emotional illiteracy. When a man is suffering from emotional illiteracy because of the way we have been socialized, very self-defeating socialization, that we are not able to get in touch with how we are feeling, that you are angry and you say, I feel angry because of A, B, C, D, and you express it objectively, and you tell your family or you tell your spouse or you tell your friend how you are feeling without necessarily expressing yourself with outbursts of anger. Now, you will agree with me that sometimes when you are not able to discern, when you are not able to perceive your own feelings, it also becomes very hard for you to understand the feelings of others. This is what we are calling emotional illiteracy. So for us to be able to understand others, it is very, very important, very paramount for us to be able to understand our own feelings. Now, the results of this emotional illiteracy is intimate couple violence, homicide, suicide, etc., etc. And we have described that in that circle that I have shown you. Now, let me show you something here. I said that I borrow a lot from the Bible. I like reading the Bible from a psychological or wearing psychological lenses. And I see somebody here called David. And he's saying in Proverbs 14:13 that laughter conceals a heavy heart, but when laughter ends, the grief remains. Meaning, if a man cannot have a safe space whereby they can laugh, whereby they can be in touch with themselves, then you realize that grief will remain. Then I like David again. Sorry, Proverbs is Solomon. David, I like the way this man used to be vulnerable, because one of the things that can help men to be in touch with their feelings is, number one, to be vulnerable, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable in that we can say how we are feeling at a given time. I like this man. He says, how long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? This particular statement tells you that David had reached a point and he feels like he is, he is between a rock and a hard place. And he is facing God head on, and he is asking him, how long, oh Lord, will you forget me? Then the one that I like most is Jesus himself. And the Bible says in Matthew 26, verse 37 to 38, that taking Peter and the two sons of Zebedee with him, he began to be grieved and troubled. Then he said to them, I am so deeply grieved that I feel I am about to die. Wait here and stay awake with me. You know, one thing I love about this portion of scripture, when I look at it wearing psychological lenses, is that Jesus, being a man, being fully God and fully man, he had found his safe space. And that is why the Bible records that he would always, he had some special love for these gentlemen, Peter, John, and James. And he went with them in the mountain when he was just about to be crucified. And he tells them, he pours his heart to them. And he tells them, I am deeply grieved. Yani, niko na huzuni kabisa. I am deeply grieved. I am deeply troubled. How many of us men, because of the way we are socialized by our society, because of the way we are socialized by our families, how many of us can let's forget about ladies and our wives and stuff like that, can even agree to be vulnerable to their fellow men and tell them how they are feeling? And then he tells them that I am so deeply grieved that I feel I'm about to die. This is awesome. And the question of coming to a point of understanding our own feelings as men it is really going to redefine masculinity. It is going to see masculinity in another way, knowing that being vulnerable is actually not weakness, it is actually strength. That I can say, I am feeling A, B, C, D. Now, what is the remedy? I want to be a bit fast. Cultivating our natural capacity for emotional attunement and relationships is critical to our overall well-being. What is the remedy to this kind of socialization? The kind of family where we have grown up, you know, the society, the schools where we went, whereby we learned to be hard, that I would rather die with my problems. Many times I counsel with some young men, saying that they want to commit suicide, reason being, you know, I've been left by my wife, I've been left by my house, or rather my girlfriend and stuff like that. Or somebody has lost a job. Like a case in point, I remember sometimes back, a man came to me and he told me that he wants to commit suicide because he has been fired from his place of work. And then somebody got him a job for driving. And when he was going there, his documents and his driving license fell off a motorbike. And upon reaching where he was going for interview, he doesn't have anything. So he came back very devastated, wanting to commit suicide. And I remember walking with him and trying to help him rediscover himself and get in touch with his pain and get to say how that is making him feel, so that he can begin to have space to dream again. Because, and I remember telling him that the worst thing that a man can lose is actually not even job, is not even what we treasure most, is not even a car, but the worst thing that a man can lose is the ability to dream. You know, when their ego has been trampled upon, when they are feeling there that they are not able to dream again, oh my goodness, that can bring death even faster than poison can. And therefore, cultivating our natural capacity for emotional attunement and relationships is critical to our overall being. Because again, you realize that men, sometimes we run away from relationships, and especially the sound relationships. And this is the time when we will run to alcoholism and stuff like that, wanting to numb our pain. But the best thing is, number one, to get in touch with our pains, not insulate ourselves against pain, but again, knowing that there is a better way to deal with that pain than the way probably we have been socialized. And the way we have been socialized, as we have said, keeping quiet with our pain. I am a man enough. I don't need anyone to help me navigate through this pain. In conclusion, mine was very brief. We are saying it is okay to express a negative feeling. It is okay for a man to say how he's feeling, and it doesn't make him less of a man. It doesn't make him look like a woman by saying simply how you are feeling, saying that you are agitated, you are angry because of ABCD, because getting angry is okay. Because even throughout the Bible you read and you find some scripture saying, be angry, but don't let the sun go down in your anger. Meaning that it is natural, it is human, it is okay to be feeling the way we feel sometimes. Now, men's judgments should never be impaired by negative emotions. Men's judgments should not be impaired by negative emotions. This cannot come unless we begin to, slowly by slowly, begin to redefine masculinity and begin to realize that masculinity is not. I hope you are hearing me. I am seeing something telling me that my internet is unstable, but I hope you are with me, Keith.
Can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Moffat, you can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, so men's judgments should never be impaired by negative emotions and feelings. This can only come when we begin to redefine masculinity. I remember talking to a gentleman, this was a couple some years back, and this boy, I realized that they were having a lot of turmoils in their marriage relationship. And I asked him, are you able to narrate with me or to narrate to me? Because I realized that this man is not feeling the woman. You know, the woman is really hurting because of something that had happened to them. But this man could not, I could see that he's struggling. He's suffering from emotional illiteracy. He could not feel the girl at all. And I asked him, I took him back to his family of origin. And I asked him, how are you able to share with me some of the things that you consider so precious, which you were taught in your family that can help you find a solution to the issues that you are going through as a couple? Oh, and I felt like fainting because he told me that he was taught three things. He was taught, number one, to excel in school, which is good. Number two, to make money, which is good. And he actually had made, I think, enough of it by the time they were coming to me. And number three, which he was working on, he was taught by his father and his parents to be famous, to try as much as he can, to cultivate for fame, fame. And I realized that those three things could not help him as far as his marriage was concerned, because he had money, he was working on fame, he had a good job, he had good education, but they were still struggling. And upon continuing with our sessions, he realized, and he actually confessed, and he told me, Moffat, I feel so foolish that I am now beginning to realize, and he actually told me, he described his family to me, and he told me, Moffat, my family where I come from, we are just so cold. The relationship amongst them, their parents and their siblings, it's so cold that the only thing they can talk about when they come is how much money somebody made. You have a new job, how much is it paying? And then after that narrative is over, somebody eats and they go to bed. So the question of feeling each other, the question of addressing emotions was nowhere. And they were never taught how to even do conflict resolution. In a situation whereby someone is, in an intimate relationship is hurting because of your actions, how do you go about it? And he told me that I actually feel stupid that I'm not able to feel my wife, that I'm not able to see the pain that I have caused him, and that I'm trying to focus her attention to some things that do not matter to her. This is what happens when we are dead to our own feelings. We are not able to say how we are feeling. Remember what we have called normative male alexithymia. And the moment we are not able to know how we are feeling, we again are not able to understand how others are feeling about us. And that is why someone will take a knife or a panga and slit the throat of their wives or their loved ones. We have had all manner of these crazy things. Someone has been, caused pain. We remember the case, it's in the public domain, of a young man who traveled all the way from Thika to Eldoret, Moi University, to just kill his girlfriend. He is in pain. And every time I think about this young man, I keep asking myself, from Nairobi all the way to Eldoret, what were you thinking? What was happening? What was going on in your mind, right? This is someone who is so much struggling and suffering from emotional illiteracy, so much struggling from what we've called normative male alexithymia, that they're careless about how others are feeling. We've got to define that. We've got to do it differently. Thank you very much. That marks the end of my presentation. Maybe questions are welcome. Over to you,
Thank you,
Keith.
Mr. Moffat. Thank you, Mr. Moffat. That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing. I will go to the questions at the chat box. One of the questions, here is one of the questions from Open Space to everyone. They're asking, what is your view on pain for both women and men? Is it culturally defined?
I'm not sure whether I'm getting the context of that question.
What is your view on pain for men and women? Is maybe they're trying to ask, is it how are men allowed to express pain culturally?
Yes.
What is the accepted norm of how to express pain?
I hear you. I hear you. It is definitely culturally defined. Because the way men feel, and this is, you know, this differs from different cultures. You agree with me that, you know, if you go to some cultures, let's say, for example, I'm just imagining, like the Maasai, you know, or, you know, people or boys who have been trained to be strong, to fight wild animals, to fight lions. You agree with me that such a man, it becomes very hard. You know, the way they express pain, it might be very hard for you to define, actually, to be able to pick or to perceive their pain. Because number one, even expression, I am imagining that it should not be there. You know, just the nonverbal cues, you know, expression of pain physically, it should not be there. So this might be a man who is hurting in the inside, but in the outside they are wearing, you know, a very this facet, a mask, showing that they are strong. They are in charge because they have to be strong for their families. Coming to women, okay, when they express their frustrations or their pain, sometimes you realize that in some cultures they are not even allowed to also say how they are feeling. But there are cultures whereby they will look at it as, you know, something normal. And a woman is screaming because she has seen a lizard, or because she has hurt herself, she has hurt her finger, and you hear people saying, "Oh, that's a lady. I think it is acceptable." But when a man does something like that, you hear them say, "You are kona umama sana," depending on the cultural lenses that we are wearing. So it is culturally defined.
An emotionally intelligent man or emotionally healthy?
Emotionally healthy man, number one, and I think it has, that's a question that has actually been answered throughout the presentation, in the sense that someone who is emotionally intelligent, number one, first thing first, understanding and being able to define how they are feeling. Number one, somebody who gets angry, and before they act, they have got a window. There is a window whereby they are able to, in a fraction of a second, do an introspection, think about themselves, think about how much they are feeling hurt, and think about even the implications of whatever impasse that comes to their mind. And by so doing, and I have seen it happening to me, and especially when I'm disciplining my boys, and sometimes they will do some things, and I, those of you who have parented boys, sometimes they can be all over the place. But then before I take that kiboko and inflict pain, I have realized that over the years, I'm taking myself to a few seconds or few minutes meeting whereby I'm able to have a very quick flash in my mind of what the action I'm about to take, what it means. Am I correcting? Am I just inflicting pain just for the sake of doing it? Do I want them to fear me? Or do I want to affirm my authority but still mark the boundaries in a manner that they are able to know that we are friends, but yet this is a firm father? You know, just doing those calculations in a fraction of seconds, I would say that is a man who is on his way to mastering his feelings and emotions.
Thank you, Mr. Moffat. There's another question from Fatma Sharif.
Yeah.
She's asking, what is your view on the cases we had last year where girls lost their lives because of love triangles? Okay. Yeah. And number two, the same question is asking, or rejected by women that cost them their lives. Or not to be, or men who were rejected by women and they committed suicide. Yes. So there are two questions. Girls who were killed as a result of being in a love triangle, and number two,
killed by men.
I believe that's, we're trying to understand the question. And secondly, about what is your view on men who commit suicide as a result of being rejected by women?
Another deception on masculinity is on what I would call sexual, is when you conquer as many girls as reject me as a man. That is turning down my sexual moves. That is not masculine. That is an insult to my masculinity. I cannot take it. It is unacceptable. And they end up doing whatever you are saying, you know, killing the girls because they feel, you know, they were on a sexual conquest mission. But then somebody here, a girl, who should be under me as far as sexuality is concerned, is turning down the offer. I cannot take it. So again, it is as a result of this deceptive way of defining manhood. And that is why I am calling my topic the deception of masculinity. And this is something that really needs to be redefined. This has been put in us by our cultures, our diverse cultures, and they tell you that where I come from, they say, how do I put it? They say that somebody can help me translate this. When you are rearing chicken, they say there is no cock or there is no chicken that belongs to one cock or something like that. Meaning that something like that. And you realize that even in our marriages, there are problems because somebody is married, but then this deceptive way of looking at things tells him, because you are a man, you are supposed to be on a continuous sexual conquest, because that is who a real man is. This is dangerous. So, and even equally, there's even some ladies who have succumbed because they have been rejected and they commit suicide. Why? Because their culture has taught them, this is a man who is on a sexual conquest. He has, I thought that I was going to be under him. I would be proud being associated with such a man, and then he rejects me. Oh no, they are broken. And it's a whole lot of issues. I hope I have addressed that question.
Thank you, Mr. Moffat. I believe you're touching on something that's a wider topic, which is toxic masculinity.
Yes, that is it.
Thank you. Open space, please feel free to give us a question.
Thank you very much.
Open-
Thank you very much, Moffat, for that very provocative presentation.
Yes.
And also very interesting. I think you have raised a few issues that are not only controversial,
Yeah.
but some of them may probably not be backed by adequate research and data in the African context. My question is, every culture allows, many cultures do not allow public display of pain or emotion, whether positive or negative.
Sure.
I do not know what is your view in men in Africa who are in transition, having had a way of expressing their pain in the age set groups, depending on culture, which has now been dismantled, and therefore men may find very little openings and vents for processing their own emotions, both positive and negative. So what kind of socialization would you therefore recommend so that we do not condemn people whose ways of expressing emotions has been dismantled? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very rich question. Indeed, it is true. And when it comes, unfortunately, like you have rightly said, very little is done as far as research is concerned. As far as this subject is concerned, as a matter of fact, you realize that even the materials that we rely on are so much Western. So I agree with you on that particular issue. Now, the only way, and I am trying to do it in my own small way, we cannot, and especially for me, many times I'm finding myself working with married couples. It would be very hard for a man to be able to express how they are feeling if our women are not empowered in the same manner. Number two, you will agree with me that in an African setup, men, before we open up or before we give somebody access to our hearts, it will really take time. And therefore, what we can do or what we need to do as counselors in our own small ways is, number one, to empower the people who surround men. And that brings in the equation even women, for those who are married, whenever we have those platforms. But then, like you have said, it will also, because of this same socialization, a man going to a woman to tell them how they are feeling, it becomes very hard. So where does it begin? Formulating or establishing forums or groups. Like I like one group of a certain pastor called Bevy, Man Enough. Even though probably the ones who lead are not maybe trained psychologists, but I like it because I have been in those forums and I see the way men are able to express themselves to their fellow men. So, like I had said earlier, beginning to establish safe spaces for men would be very, very, very important. The people that they can trust, people that they can talk to and they do not feel judged. But then it takes time. It takes time even for men to open up to their fellow men, because they have to really do their calculations. Am I in a safe place? Are these people going to judge me? That is what I would say, that us taking the initiative, not only to empower the people who surround men, that is why whenever I find an opportunity to speak to women, I do tell them so. But then, most importantly, in our churches, in our mosques, wherever we are, where there are men, beginning to establish those particular programs whereby men can be allowed to feel safe and they are able to speak to their fellow men, and they are able to establish this kind of, have this vulnerability and share out their feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anastasia Kiwaga has a question or an input.
Yeah.
Anastasia, you're welcome. And Anastasia, you're welcome. As we wait for her,
Yeah.
I'll read some questions. Maybe you could answer question.
As you wait for her, can I put an input?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Moffat. This was a very pregnant presentation.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've liked how you have put it.
Yes.
And I even had to comment in my messages that I was stuck in a point. I was to go for supervision, but now I won't, because now I've had enough from what I've gotten from you.
That's encouraging.
True. We want to believe that what you've said and what you've done a bit of research is true, because men like hiding so much, and you realize that even in psychology they say that men don't like sharing about their feelings.
Yes.
Many a times that you will meet with men in a car, you will meet men walking, you will meet men having fun. You will ask them, how's your family? My family is good. How's your kid? My kids are good. But in real sense, in the house, they are suffering what you call Sodom and Gomorrah in the four corners of the houses.
Yeah.
But them sharing about what they are going through is not so much easy.
Yes.
You realize that we have chama cha wanawake, maendeleo ya wanawake. The last time we had the maendeleo ya wanaume,
Yes.
has there any man who has come out saying that he's having a problem?
Never.
No, never. Because men feel that our ego is so much high. Last time in this forum, I had somebody asking that, now we thank God that we're having men in counseling. Because it's like kind of women even have been thinking about counseling is all about women. It's not about men. And even when we check the ratio of counselors who are men to the counselors who are women, women are so much than men in counseling department, in profession. So I want to concur with you, and I want to say this and put in record that I think we need men safe space more than women in safe space at the moment.
Sure.
Because what men are doing at the moment, even when we hear that men are raping women, it's not because they really want, but it's because perhaps of their journey in developmental stages, what Sigmund Freud talks, psychosexual and psychosocial talks about, and realize that men are so much repressed in very many things in such a way that they can't. And so because they cannot be able to share and say, I want this woman, they go ahead and go do raping. And so they found themselves in the behind bars. But if they could be able to come out and be able to share that, okay, I feel you, I mind you, etc., it becomes easy. So we really need a lot of men safe space than women safe space. So can the women who are inside here raise from the occasion to help us from this menace of men raping women, so that at least we can be somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for your response. There was bosses to all wanted to make a contribution.
Oh, well, Moffat, thank you so much for the presentation today. That's very opening. But again, as we mull over this issue of men, the first question I ask myself is, every other man keeps saying men need to stand up and be counted. Well, charity begins at home. The very man talking must be counted. I equally believe that the biggest challenge men are having currently is more of the father figures. My generation were raised with harsh father figures. We have to be careful not to raise our sons with the mommy's boy kind of character. And this I speak with a lot of pain, that as much as I'm a counselor, you visit most homes, find that a 25-year-old young man is still staying in his mother's house, but calling himself a man. Now, would we say that that is bad culturally? Would we say that is bad traditionally? Would we say that is bad patriarchally? Would we say that is bad biblically? Well, I wouldn't want to make it look bad, but I will say that accordingly to nature, when you reach that age of being responsible, then you start being accountable. But when you leave others to be responsible for you and you want to be accountable, so it will be very important for the male forum become strong and create that forum for male mentorship, because that is what since 2004. One of the most lacking things is the male role model to our young people. And why am I saying this? Our Sunday school, the Sunday school teacher is female. The ECD teacher is female. 80% of the time, these children are either with the nanny at home, the maid, or the mother, because me as a man, I'm out there looking for the money to feed them. And so when they're growing up, they lack the real model, and they start, one day you walk home and your son who's turned 18 had a wonderful birthday. You've never been in his life as a father, but he's turned 18 and you walk home and you find him that the best change in his life for his birthday gift was to plait his hair and put on earring. And he looks cool, man. Can we say that that is masculinity kind of misbehavior? No. Psychologists know that man is a producer and a product of his own environment. The surrounding shapes you to a level. So I think it is time that us men need to be present more in our families, need to be present more in our society, need to be present more amongst ourselves, because it is amongst ourselves that we are able to share. Fathers never gave us that opportunity. Our fathers were the head and the lion of the house. He walks in, everybody is like dissolved. The children dissolve. But now it is time for us to pick up that mantle. So in my opinion, we still cannot continue passing on the ball and saying men, men, men. We must stand and say, what is it? What contribution have I done to this society? And that calls for men to be involved in Sunday school, in ECD, in counseling. I had somebody say that there are 2 women in counseling field than men. Yes, men need to get into that field more and more. In where I am, there are a lot of men who have done counseling, but are they practicing? No, it is the weak. So my contribution is that it is time men stood up and be counted. It is not about men should. It is about what can we do now? What are we doing now? You know, my son has to learn from me. He has to know that it is okay to cry, but it is not okay to overcry. It is okay to feel pain, but it is okay also to be strong enough to realize that that is part and parcel of being alive and kicking. Thank you so much.
Okay, and then where's Moffat? Where's Moffat? Moffat, okay, just a minute. Moffat?
Yeah.
Okay, you can continue. You can respond to the questions asked.
Yes, actually that I think was more of a contribution.
Yes.
And I concur with my brother there, because in as much as we are saying that we need to redefine this issue of masculinity, there is always what is outstanding, what should be outstanding for a man or for a male gender. And for us to overcome this problem, the question of transgenerational patterns is also something that we cannot afford to ignore. And I was telling someone yesterday that children learn, or rather listen with their eyes. They listen with their eyes. Therefore, they need to see us, our boys, they need to see us. You know, we need to be actively involved, you know, in raising them. But then, like we were saying, you will realize that it is very hard for you to withdraw money that you never deposited. Now, you will realize that sometimes some men will run out of, of those resources standing to be counted, because they are also struggling with their own baggages. They are also struggling with the confusion of the whole thing of the way we have been socialized by our society. And therefore, you realize that unless we stand to be counted, those of us who are hearing what we are saying today, spreading the same to others, you realize that this problem will continue. We will not be able to put an end to this particular issue. And therefore, talk of our boys, they can never learn from their mothers. A mother can never teach a son how to be a father or how to be a man. Why? Because children listen or hear with their eyes. That is so profound. And therefore, it is important. It is important for even those of our sisters who probably are raising children of their own, and especially boys. It is important to have them get exposed to people that they can trust, men that they can trust. They could be their uncles, they could be ABCD, because again, we are not saying that single mothers cannot raise sons. They do, and they can. And probably some of us have been raised in such a manner. But all what we are saying, that it can be easier for a boy to learn how to be a man from the father, to know that it is okay to feel pain. Life does not give you all that you want, but again, it is also okay to feel the way you are feeling and to express that pain in this particular way, because this is the objective way. This other one is the subjective way. Thank you.
Thank you, Moffat. Now, as we begin to conclude, there's some two questions, I believe, which are the last two questions.
Yeah.
From the first one is from Reverend Paul. He's asking, what is your advice to the people men deal with, i.e. spouses and fellow men, in regarding to help them overcome these deceptions? So he's asking, what are the steps you can begin to help men to overcome those deceptions, which I believe you've answered in one or the other.
Yeah.
Then the next question is, Anastasia is asking, how can we create this awareness to the wider society to enlighten them to become, and not to become enlightened, enlightened.
Okay.
And not to be in deception. Lastly, question from Life Pillars. What is difficult for men? What makes it difficult for men to connect or to be vulnerable? Is it language, ego? Is it intellectual? They're saying, please help us understand what exactly is the core, because men do business and they say they want to be clear.
Thank you. I think beginning from the first one, how we can how the people in the circles of men can help them. I think it is the man who is in need who need to sort of, assuming that the people who are in his circles do not have the knowledge that we have right now, but then you are able to look at a person maybe in a church or something, and something tells you, hey, the way I see this man, I think he is able to help me in ABCD. It is upon us, myself as Moffat, to initiate the move, to create or to begin to establish a relationship, so that as you do that, you are able to know whether this can become a safe haven for you to express your pain, to express what is going on. So that is very, very important. So we really need to take the initiative. Now, on sharing this same thing to our, or rather to widen the circle that can get this information so that they are able to help their men, I think, like someone has said, it is very, very important for us to stand and be counted. I have asked this question to some of my students, male students who are pursuing counseling. And I have seen some of them, they pursue it, they graduate, and some of them go and begin to do some other things. The other day I met one of them who started a garage, and I was asking him, okay, what does this garage got to do with what you learned? And I realized that whatever he learned and the skills he learned are just lying idle and probably not helping people as much. So I think it is upon us to take it upon ourselves to go out, to inform, to do this evangelism, and to inform, and to mentor and send out in our own small way. Let us not feel like, our impact is not going to be felt because maybe you are the only person that can do this, or you feel that like you're not causing impact on ABCD. Let's not despise our humble beginning. We go out and try to help. Now, coming to the next question, what exactly is difficult for men? Is it language? We talked about language. Is it ego? Yes, there's an aspect of that. Is it intellectual? Help us understand exactly what is the core issue, because men do business and they say what they want and need there. In those businesses, they say what they want and what they need. Now, I'll answer this question, in a very simplified manner. And I will say, because I'm assuming the way this question has been framed, it tells me like whoever is asking this question is like in a marriage setup or a marriage context. And I'll say there is nothing that human beings will fear than being revealed. And in marriage is being revealed. And you are being revealed to people who are going to be with you in your entire life, okay? Now, for you to be revealed or to be known by others around you, it is not easy, because it is a question of agreeing to be vulnerable. And if there's a creature that really fears to be vulnerable, and then that is used against them, I think it is men. And for us to be able to help them, assuming that this is within a marriage context, or even in any other context where men are, I think validating their pain is very, very important. Validating their pain is very important. Like, for example, I remember I was saying this on radio a week ago. How many of our sisters have taken a step to ask their men friends or even their husbands who have been affected so much by what we are going through as a nation or in the entire world, whose businesses have come crumbling down, whose salaries have been slashed, others are actually have been fired, they have been sent packing, and they actually do not know how to start telling you or telling the story because, again, of another deception of that what defines a man is what he has, or true manhood. And I hear them say that mwanaume ni wallet, that a man is his wallet. Now, it reaches a point, going back to that frustration circle that I showed us, that even this wallet that we are saying has been rendered powerless. Okay? So if that is where this man had anchored himself and his ego and his self-worth, then it goes without saying that we really need someone who can, this is a man who requires rapid response. It's an emergency issue, needs to be responded to. So who is to respond it? Possibly the girlfriend, the wife, or whoever it is. How do they do it? Number one, not trivializing their pain. Number two, validating their feelings. And number 3, showing them that this is not their problem by themselves, that they are with them in that pain. And when you do that, I think when a man realizes that you are with them in their pain, not during the times of abundance, that one is a big no. But when they are suffering, when they are in pain, I think that can go, an extra mile in helping this man agree to be revealed, agree to be known, agree to share his dreams, agree to share his pain, agree to share his frustrations. That is what I can answer.
Thank you so much, Mwalimu Moffat. Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for making your contributions. Please feel free to share more on the inbox of the WhatsApp. You can share your insights, some things you've discovered on how to raise and develop healthy men in our society. If anyone would like to get the presentation, we will share the M-Pesa number through which you can send 100 shillings and it will be forwarded to you. Tomorrow's session will be Relationship Killers by Pauline Wanje, and it will be at 6 p.m. Please feel free to join in and invite your friends to come in and listen in. Thank you so much for your time. Have a blessed evening, and God bless you. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moffat.
And someone is asking how they can join the WhatsApp.
Okay.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?